Hello everyone, this is Jessica, just chiming in to let you know we had some audio difficulties with this, so I'm just re-recording our intro slide. We are talking today about the justice-involved population and how to best serve them. It'll cut in a little intensely, but after that you should have a pretty good audio experience, I hope. So here goes. Welcome to the justice-involved module.
Is to review the instructions for Medicaid and the justice-involved population, the community partner tool and processing for justice-involved cases, and urgent case request criteria. So we want to take a poll. We wanted to know, does OHP cover individuals while they're incarcerated? So if someone wants to if y'all want to type into the box and let us know, and Jessica will let us know the results. We'll take like a couple seconds for that.
Everyone is giving the right answer.
What is the answer, Jessica?
The answer is nope.
All right. And everyone is correct. So Medicaid policy, justice-involved population. Jen, do you want to add more into what qualifies justice-involved population, just a little bit of history, and the Medicaid policy?
Well, yeah, as far as that goes, I mean, no one that is in prison, incarcerated, is going to be eligible for OHP.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just a matter of making sure that it's getting suspended when they are incarcerated, and then also, reinstated when they're out. So that's kind of what we're doing over here.
Okay. Inmates include people in federal and state prisons, county and jails, Oregon Youth Authority, and community correction work centers.
Yes.
Anything you would like to add, Jen?
I don't think so.
Okay, perfect. Let's move on. So Medicaid policy, justice-involved population. Does Medicaid cover for inpatient hospitalization? Oregon is a suspension state. Can you tell us what a suspension state means?
Can I tell you? Well, that's just kind of going with they're not paying or not covering it. I'm sure there's other benefits that are provided to them, but it's not coming out of the funds that we have for OHP.
Okay.
As far as I know, that's how it works.
Awesome. Is there any questions about what suspension state means?
No questions as of yet.
So in the U.S., there are 2.2 million people in the nation's prison and jails. The United States, the largest leader in incarceration, 500% increase over the last 40 years. More than 60% of people in prison are people of color. The U.S. now spends more than $68 billion annually on federal and state local incarceration. So this is just a brief history of the U.S. incarceration. Jen, we wanted to go over the application and enrollment process for first-time OHP applicants that are in the justice-involved population. Identifying justice-involved individuals who will be transitioning back into the community who are eligible for OHP. So the hope is that they will, if they're new, they can apply before they're released, but with the caveat that the application not be submitted, correct?
Right. So that's the idea. So a lot of the CPs now are getting access to MMIS, so they can go in and see that the person was already in our system. They have had OHP previously, and it's already been suspended. And then they can also see if it's been a long time ago, then they probably do need to send in an application. one of the other things that I do is work with the Oregon State Hospital, which is also not something that's, if someone's admitted to the state hospital, we suspend benefits for them as well. So we talk a lot going back and forth of, do I need an application? And I know that a lot of the jails can't do that. They don't have enough help really to keep track of everybody, but to go through and, ask us, just send us an email and ask us if we do need a new application or not. Sometimes we get the release form, the 7100, and we don't have anything for that person, so it makes it a little bit more difficult.
Mm-hmm.
But when in doubt, always just send another application, and that way we have it with their signature and all their information, and then, including the release date, the booking date, the release date, and everything, we can get all of that set up and even retro it back if it's a couple days later after we get it. So we can do that.
And making sure that once the individual's released, going back into the one system to complete the application, correct?
Right, exactly. Mm-hmm. We can kind of get it all together, get all the information we need, get everything set up and ready to go, and then once we get that release date, we get that entered in, and then we can activate the benefits. So it makes it a little bit smoother for the process.
Thank you. So can we talk a little bit about the applicant's suspension of benefits?
So that part is, a lot of times it's done by OPAR, and I believe what happens with that, so we're not really involved with it on this end. We can manually do it from our system, but I think that they just get a list, like an Excel spreadsheet from the different county jails, and they go through and suspend the benefits. A lot of times we get them. We get release information, and they never were suspended in the first place. A lot of them are that way, and I think it's just because it's cycling through so quickly.
Mm-hmm.
But they're not there for very long. So by the time they get that spreadsheet, it's just part of the backlog, I guess, where they don't even get suspended in our system until after the fact, and we get the release dates, and then we go in and we do a couple different things to correct that and take out that time frame of removing their benefits essentially for when they are incarcerated. So we have a way we can go back and fix it, but a lot of times we get the release dates, and they weren't ever suspended in the first place. So it's just a matter of them submitting it and that team, processing that information when they get it.
And community partners can fill out the 7100 form in order to help.
So that was something. Yeah, that was something that we kind of talked about, and I thought that we were going to go back with policy and get a better answer for that, because I thought that was only something that the county jails could fill out and not just the CPs. But we do get them from CPs, and I know that a lot of CPs work with the county jails and have that information, so that was something that I think we were going to go back and double check.
Okay, so we'll make sure to update community partners.
Yeah, because as far as I know, I thought that was only available for the actual county jails that they were supposed to be filling that information out.
And I just want to make sure because we talked about a few different things just now. So the process of turning off benefits, for our CPs who are on the line, I would say do not worry about that side of things, because that's something that is between the jail and OPAR, and that's not, unless you are working with OPAR and want to get involved in that. Regardless of if someone was correctly suspended or not, we still want to try our best to help people get all their information accurately to the state.
And I think this the part that we want the community partners to get out of this is that they can help people in the justice involved population with the one application and not necessarily submit it, but when that person is released, they can submit them and help them through that process. Correct?
And sometimes
the 7100. Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Sometimes if someone was correctly suspended, the 7100 is the right tool. Other times it is the full either paper 7210 or one system application that's going to be needed.
Can you go back on what the 7210?
And the 7210 is that OHP application, that's the paper form that aligns more or less right now with what the one system has. So either a paper application can go in or a one application. You should not have to do both.
For all of us CPs that don't necessarily know the number system. Thank you, Jessica.
We get so used to all our jargon and our numbers.
So we just wanted to show you all what 7100 form looks like. Jen, do you think you could go, because we do have community partners that are working in the jails and in the justice system, do you mind kind of going through the form? Is that something you feel comfortable, or we can just briefly just go through the slide?
Of course.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, we definitely need to have their name and their date of birth and the social security number. Having also the Medicaid Prime ID is great for identifying who the person is. And if we have all of that information and we want to make sure that we're double checking it and making sure that it's correct, sometimes we get them in, they're illegible, or they, the wrong social to the wrong name, and so it takes us a really long time to try to locate the correct person and the correct information within our system. So we want to make sure that that information is double checked and accurate. And then if the prime is available, that it makes it a lot quicker to find the person in all of our different databases that we have. And then of course we're going to need to know the address upon release. We submitted a request to have that changed, so it will show the physical address and the mailing address, because our system, we have both, and if we don't have a physical address, we'll just put in the primary zip code or county that they are typically living in, and then we have to have some sort of mailing address. So the address part is pretty important. And then hopefully that line will get changed to where it'll say mailing, and then it'll have a physical address. And if they don't have a physical address, we want to make sure they're putting in a mailing address, and then at least their most common zip code for their physical address, and a phone number, and then facility information. That's important. We want that information. And then if they're in the hospital while they're an inmate, that would be the bottom section of that. So this is all super important. If they are pretty sure that they've never had OHP before, you want to do this form and also the 7210, which is our application, which has their signature on it, and that's super important that we need for, obvious, permission and audit purposes and things like that.
And thank you so much for bringing up just like a friendly reminder, if they are helping people that are not yet released, to make sure to have the consent form, so when the person's released, that they can submit the application and they have the consent form in case things come up and they need to call the call center. Always have a consent form. Message of the story, always.
Well, and the part that I'm also referring to is the 7210 on the last couple pages. It's page 19 and 20. It basically covers your rights and responsibilities of having OHP. So we need that signature page. Awesome. It basically gives us information to go in and find out the information we need to set it up, and also giving permission for us to even process an application for a person. So sometimes people will be right in the midst of a renewal process and we need a new one, or they've never had OHP with us before, or they're going from like a family home situation and now they're not going back to that same location. So we would need new applications, in that situation as well. So yeah, a couple different things involved, a couple different factors involved.
Thank you. I just wanted to check back with Jessica and see if there's any questions about the 7100 form. No? Does anyone have questions?
Yeah, don't be shy typing into the question box.
Or did we go too fast and you wanted us to clarify anything? Please ask us. We are very lucky today to have experts on the line that can really help with the process if you're working with this population, or if you plan on working within this population. And then we wanted to go through the urgent request criteria. Jen, I have this on the slide, but you are more of an expert on this than I am. Can we talk a little bit more about how to submit urgent requests if the justice involved person has any medical issues like diabetes or blood pressure medication, like they need prescriptions, or urgent medical needs, serious health conditions, immediate surgery, or the client is pregnant, so the justice involved person is pregnant, can we go a little bit into how the processing center would like to receive those current urgent cases?
Yes. So right now, what works is for sending the emails to our usual 5503 corrections email address, and then putting urgent in the subject line, and then that would filter into an urgent folder that we have that we check on a continuous basis. And a lot of times when they're saying it's urgent, is they're being released and they are needing to pick up a prescription right away or get into a facility or something like that. Something else is going on. So it just kind of flags it. So we see that that's something that we need to have. We need to make sure that that is getting activated today. And then that process that works the best is when the CPs can go into the I guess it's the applicant portal of the one system and pretty much get all the information and everything set up in there on the computer. They don't have to fill out the application. They're going over all of it with the client. And then as soon as they have that release date, they send that 7100 to our email. Mm-hmm. And if it's something that needs to, it's a serious, health issue going on, then they can make sure that they label it as urgent. Mm-hmm. And then it's flagged, so we see it right away.
What would deem an urgent case? Can you go into what that means? Is there a criteria for it to be considered an urgent case? Because
well, typically it's urgent. Like they need immediate medical care, pregnant, or immediate need to pick up prescriptions and things like that. So it's
okay.
Kind of what's pretty much listed on here. I mean, okay. If there's a fractured bone, it's a serious health condition. They need immediate prescription filled, or surgery, things like that.
Okay.
Or pregnancy would also be another one, where we'd want to know that it's urgent. We need to have it, make sure that it's turned on right away. So we can always with all of them. Mm-hmm. Even if we get the release form a couple days later, we're still entering that release date. So the system will still retro and turn on and activate benefits for the release date. But if they are right there at the pharmacy, right then and there, then that would be considered an urgent. If it's it's really important medication that they're needing.
Yeah, totally. And making sure if they encounter someone that's pregnant, that would also be deemed as an urgent case. Thank you so much.
Uh-huh.
And so for the OHP application and enrollment process for justice involved, so we know, does it meet urgent criteria? What we're hoping is if it does, that they'll email the corrections email with the title saying it's urgent. If they're new to OHP, they'll fill out either a paper application and a 700 form with the release date and add urgent, and make sure to send it to the corrections 5503 email. Correct? So this is the process for the urgent request.
We have some questions.
Oh, awesome. Yay, questions.
All right. And this first one, I'm going to rephrase it slightly, which is, do you have any tips for how community partners can know when is a good time to send in just the 7100 and when the full application should be used?
So if they don't have access to MMIS and the client, the person actually doesn't know if they had it before they were incarcerated, then most likely that they're going to need the 7210. Another situation would be where their OHP lapsed, like their renewal time frame lapsed while they were incarcerated. So now we're getting the release date, but the system would have already turned off their benefits anyways because they didn't renew, and they couldn't renew because they were incarcerated. So really the only way to really know is to have access to MMIS or to email us and ask us. And if when in doubt, then just definitely send it or go through and enter the information in on the applicant portal and kind of get that information set up for us ahead of time. And then once we get it, we can activate the benefits and verify information on our end.
Mm-hmm.
Is there more questions? Yay.
I feel like I know the answer to this. Would HIV medication count as urgent? Yes, definitely.
Yes.
Right?
Right, Jen? You're the expert.
would
HIV
think so.
medication. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know, but I would think so, yes.
Oh, I think there's someone else.
Oh, and also Beth is now on the line.
Oh, hi, Beth. Thank you for joining us.
Hi, Beth.
So the question.
Sorry for being late.
Oh no, totally fine. So I guess the question was, does HIV medication count as an urgent request?
Any medication counts as an urgent request if the member feels that they need it.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Are there more questions?
We can't ask what it is. All they need to say is I have an urgent prescription need, and that's acceptable.
Oh.
That's a great point.
Great point and great verbiage on how to ask for those needs for clients. Are there more questions?
And we have one more, which is patient essential hospital for inpatient services but not released. A community partner can't assist due to security reasons. So is that a time when we even should be doing a 7100 and a consent form?
So I'm trying to understand the question.
So I think it's the hospitalization side of this, which maybe we can go a little, although maybe that's what's next. I know we have a hospitalization. That is what's next. We'll go over that now.
So now that we have Jen and Beth on the line, so can we talk a little bit more about the process of hospitalization? And so it sounds like completing the application, the paper application, submitting the 7100 through the corrections 5503, on including the dates of benefit period and hospitalization, and submit the form 7100 after hospitalization. So can we spend some time talking about this process?
It's very similar to the other usual process. In this case, though, this is going to be where they are going to the hospital and then also back to the jail. And then it's basically a retro request, essentially, where they're asking for that time frame of, and there's a couple of, I don't normally do those, but there's a couple of different exceptions to it where it has to be more than 24 hours and things like that, but it's asking for that time frame to be covered. So it's the services have already occurred, and now they're going back and kind of asking for that retro coverage for that time frame.
And I don't believe in our slide deck we explain when a hospitalization can lead to a 7100 and 7210. Could one of you expand on that a little more? And I think I heard the 24 hours.
If they're admitted to, they're incarcerated, they get admitted to, it's usually with the state prison. So it's usually when they go and they're admitted to the hospital for whatever reason they deem to be having to go to the hospital. And then whoever the admin person is going to submit that information with the 7100 to us, and also include that information in the hospitalization section of that form, to give us that information. And then OHP would cover it for those time frames. But it has to be more than, back me up on this, is it more than 24 hours, right?
My understanding was it's 24 hours, and they have to be admitted. They can't just be, hanging out in the ER, for lack of a better phrase, waiting to be seen. They have to be admitted and being treated. So it's kind of a fine line.
And so just for clarification, this is someone that is incarcerated, but for whatever reason, they are sick and need to go to the hospital. And when they're in the hospital, they are returning into incarceration, correct?
I'm sorry, you cut out really bad.
Oh, I apologize. So this is a person that is incarcerated and they get sick and need to go be hospitalized. They're in the hospital admitted for 24 hours or more, and they get covered during that time, but once they're back, they go back to incarceration after being released from the hospital, correct?
Correct. So we get the 7,100 with the hospitalization dates. We start the coverage the date they're admitted. We end it the date they're released, just like we would for anybody who was going back, who was incarcerated. And they wouldn't be in a CCO, of course, because it's usually only a 1 or 2 day hospitalization in most scenarios. Assuming they're otherwise eligible, it would be paid for. So there's some times where, if they're receiving SSI and they're not eligible for Magi, or they're on Medicare, or they're over 65, there's, different scenarios that would have to be looked at.
Okay. And I would say, I think the question was sort of alluding to being unable to fill out the form due to a guard not letting that happen. And so let's look into that separately. I'll follow up on that.
Okay.
I would think that once the inmate was sent back to the jail would also assist with that form. You wouldn't necessarily need a community partner because the jail doesn't want to be on the hook for the bill.
Yeah. So we'll dig more into that off of the webinar.
And so this is the process to suspend hospitalization. So you have to submit the 7,100 during the hospital period, correct? Because you have to resuspend the person's benefit after they leave the hospital.
No, correct. No. You would just send it all together at the same time.
You just send it all together.
Yeah, it would be after the fact, after they're already at the hospital. Then we kind of go back and looking at that time frame as retro benefits. So you would fill it all out with all the information after they're already out of the hospital.
Oh, okay. So making sure that form is included in that process with the paper application. Do we have any more questions, Jessica? No? My next slide. Do we have questions? And I really wanted to thank Jen and Beth for being here. I know as Rocks, we get a lot of questions about the justice involved community, so we really wanted to spend some time going through the process for community partners, for CPs, so that they feel like they have at least enough knowledge to support someone in that community. And thank you so much for your expertise. And we had a lot of technical difficulties. I really do apologize for that, and for the access code not working. Is there anything else or any questions?
Nope, no new questions, but just know you can continue to reach out to us.
Yeah, and Jessica, where do you find both the paper application and the 7100 form?
They should both be available at the form library, but also I believe they're on group site too. And if you're having trouble, reach out to your ROC and they'll help you.
Yes, and this is just a friendly reminder, the group site is your friend. So please, if you do not find the form there, let us know and we'll make sure to upload it. So thank you so much for your time, Beth and Jen, and thank you so much for this Monday module. Have a great rest of your week.